The video is finally here on showing you how to take this auto rewind hose reel and make it reef safe for your aquarium. I'm sure you guys have seen on Bulk Reef Supply's video where Ryan, it was a video about a few years back. This thing really caught my attention and I really saw how this can make your life so much easier, specifically when it comes to water changes. Now, no matter the size of your tank, I'm pretty sure you've come to not hate, but let's say dislike water changes. Why? Because you have to lug around buckets. A lot of times it could be a mess. Depending on where your tank is, it can be actually a lot of work. That's where one of these really comes in handy. This thing can run a total of 65 feet. Wherever the tank is, you can fill it without having to worry about any buckets whatsoever. So I plan to show you guys in this week's episode how you convert it. The main thing that makes this thing not reef safe is the line that it comes with. Obviously, this one's already been converted, but it comes with a standard garden hose, which you don't want to be putting salt water through that. So what I ended up doing is replacing it with a food grade 1/2 inch inside diameter by 3/4 inch outside diameter vinyl tubing. Now, it's very important you go with the dimensions I mentioned, because if you go with something that has a thinner wall, it may get compressed within the hose reel, which over time, it may collapse on itself and it probably wouldn't be pushing that much water. So make sure you go with a thicker body like I did here, and to guarantee that, go with 1/2 inch inside diameter by 3/4 inch outside diameter. In a quick nutshell, the way this works, you pull it out and you can actually lock it in position right there. Obviously, if you want it to go a little bit longer, you can go a little bit longer, give it a slight tug, and then it'll hold its position. Once you are done and you want to roll it up, you just give it another little tug. And as you can see, it rolls back up into itself. So I think you guys want to see exactly how you can convert this, so let's jump right into this video. So you're obviously going to need your hose reel. I got this one on Amazon. It's a Flowmaster. I'm going to have a link in the description. A few basic tools you're going to need is going to be a Phillips screwdriver as well as a flathead. Once you do have that, you're going to start by removing the screws around the perimeter of the whole hose reel. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. There's going to be also 2 screws located on the opposite end of the hose reel. These are the only 2. That is kind of where you mount it. Be sure you remember these. If you try to take it apart without removing these, trust me, you're not going to have very good luck. With your flathead, you're going to want to remove the cover on the right hand side. Now this is going to reveal the input side of the hose that accepts the water. You're going to notice once that's removed, there's a total of 4 screws and 2 brackets holding down this 90-degree barb that will need to be removed before it releases it. Make sure you put the screws and brackets we just removed in a safe location. Once you have all that removed, you're going to pull straight up on this 90-degree bar piece and it should come out with minimal effort. We can leave this alone as we're going to convert this hose a little bit later. Now, assuming you have loosened every single screw around the body, you can actually begin to pry it apart. It's not difficult. It doesn't take too much force. Just make sure that every single screw has been removed. Once it's off, we can set it aside and get it out of the way. While the cover's off, I also want to take a moment and explain to you guys how this works so you can familiarize yourself to see exactly how to put it back together. Start now with the arrow on the right. This is the belt. Now, this is the belt that keeps the hose guide, so when the hose is getting reeled up, it doesn't all clump up on one side, and make sure it evenly spreads it through the whole reel. And that's what the arrow in the middle is. That one there is for the guide, and you can see it attaches to the belt, which then goes to the reel, so it's able to turn when the reel itself is turning. Next, you're also going to see an arrow all the way on the left. This is just a support rod for that guide. You're going to have to be careful when you're assembling this back together that they do have an indentation in the plastic on both sides, so you have to make sure that they seat properly. If not, you're going to have a hard time getting it back together. It will take a little bit of finessing, but once you understand it, it's very simple. Also, I want to make a note for the guide itself, for the hose guide that attaches to the belt, try your best not to spin it, because it's kind of attached to what's called something like a worm gear. So if you spin it a little bit, you may take it out of alignment. It's really not a big deal. It just means that when the hose is either fully unwound, it probably won't line up to the full right side that it should be at when it's unwound. Again, it's not a deal breaker. You're not going to damage it. If you need to realign it later, it's very easy to do, but I just thought I would explain that. Next, you want to remove the 3 screws holding down this cover. make sure you put it in a safe place along with the screws. You're also going to want to remove this hose holder you see here by removing the 2 screws. Be sure to also loosen this hose clamp completely. Once both of those are done, you can pull straight up on this white piece you see here. Lastly, be sure to cut the zip tie. Now, this is what's going to actually make it reef safe. You're going to want to use some food grade vinyl tubing. Make sure that the inside diameter is 1/2 inch and the outside is 3/4. Anything different, you may get too thin of a wall and then it won't work the way it should. You want to make sure you have someone helping you, and you have to decide what you're going to do. You're either going to be the person holding the hose reel and pulling out the hose, or you're going to be the person holding the body down. So decide which one you're going to be. Make sure that neither of you let go of either piece, because if you do that, especially when the hose is off, you're going to lose tension on the hose reel, and that's not something you want to do. As long as you're holding it, you'll be perfectly fine. Winding it up is going to be very simple because you're going to feel that tension. When it comes to putting on the vinyl tubing, make sure you work backwards from when you remove the original one. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to slide it through the front faceplate. Then you're going to slide it through the guide to make sure the reel winds up properly. Next, you're going to install your zip tie, followed by your hose holder, then your hose clamp. You put your white piece back on, then you put the cover with the 3 screws, and you're all done. You can now assemble it all back together by screwing both sides together. Lastly, we need to address the input side of the hose that I mentioned we would come back to later in the video. Using some wire cutters, cut into the brass clamp that's over the barb. One saw feed your vinyl tubing from the hole on the bottom. Install a hose clamp, then slide it over the barb, and then tighten the hose clamp down. Believe it or not, you're 100% done, and you should have something that looks like this. As you see, I left the hose on the input side quite long. The one on the output here, I left it, I think, about 1 foot or 2 feet. All in all, it came together really easily and really didn't take that much time at all to do this. The only thing that was, again, it was a little bit more difficult is just that you have to have someone helping you because the hose reel itself is in tension. That's what makes it an automatic rewind hose reel. But as long as you're aware of that, and as long as you have someone helping you, one person holding the body, one person holding the reel, you should be good to go. That's going to conclude this week's video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was pretty quick. I wish I could have made the video a little bit more detailed, but trust me, it was a little bit difficult recording and then worrying about the reel, worrying about the body. So I tried my best, but I think with everything I showed you guys and the steps I showed you, you should very easily be able to put it back together. When you are putting your vinyl tubing, if you guys were maybe confused by what I meant by putting the hose on through the faceplate, that's this piece here. So when you're installing your vinyl tubing, you first run it through this piece here, then you run it through the guide. And once you run it through the guide, you can then go ahead and connect it to the side barb that I showed you guys in the video. Another thing that was a little bit hard to show in the video, but I want to bring it to your attention. When you take this unit apart, there's going to be a rod, a support rod right here that supports this guide. And there's also going to be a gear here on the top. You want to make sure that gear, you don't turn it, because then you're going to take this out of alignment. I mean, if you do take it out of alignment, you could always put it back. It's not that big of a deal. But try your best not to spin it because you don't want to take this thing out of alignment. Next, when you are putting on the body, when you're putting it back together to sandwich it, it's impossible for me to show it to you. But when you have it apart, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a guide here that is where the belt attaches to. Those actually have places that molded into the plastic where they sit, both on this side and this side. So make sure when you're assembling it back together that those are sitting where they're supposed to sit, and also make sure the support rod that runs from this side to this side sits in the pre-molded slots that are already in there. It may take a little bit of finessing, a little bit of massaging, but trust me, you'll probably have to get your finger in here and make sure it's getting aligned right. Once you get it back, it's very simple and straightforward. So guys, I'm gonna leave this video here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. More importantly, you got another idea on how you can make your reef keeping life just that much easier. I will have a link in the description where you can purchase this exact reel as well as purchase this exact hose to obviously guarantee you success, so you don't have to be fiddling around with anything else. So be sure to look at the description. I will have links to both of those. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down below. I thank each and every one of you very much for watching. As always, happy reefing.